Hello. So I hope that this go live finds everybody doing really well today. I'm really glad that we're halfway through this week. I think with how we are having these shorter days and like it gets dark so early, I don't know about you guys, but gosh, I sure do feel tired about this time of day, So to stay on subject, today we will be reviewing the High Priestess, which is from the Major Arcana, and she is the second card that we will be reviewing from that. So we started our Fool's Journey off, also known as the Seeker, a 0. And on our journey, we encountered the Magician yesterday, number 1. And now today on our journey, we have encountered this mystical being, and I will be holding the card up so that you can look at the various symbols and things going on in the card as I talk about them. So the Fool comes upon this beautiful lady, and she's very regal and confident looking, and she is sitting upon this throne. And in the background of the throne are these pomegranates. And on either side of her, there are like these 2 pillars, one black and one white. The black one has a B on it, the white having a J. She has this really beautiful crown on her head. She seems to be wearing a cross. She's holding a document that appears to be of some importance. Her feet are resting on a crescent moon. Her garment would be white and blue in color. So kind of think about what we're talking about when we talk about candles during post, the feelings that kind of go along when you see colors. And behind the backdrop of her throne, the sky is blue. In conversation, if we were to approach somebody who is seated in this manner, they don't seem to be the most open person when you think about it. This would be somebody who is very much aware of what's going on around her, but not giving a whole lot away, So when the Fool comes across this lady, he's kind of wondering, well, shoot. From the Magician, he acquired all this knowledge about the different suits in tarot to help equip him on this journey. So now he's encountering what is the spiritual side of the journey. So we will start off with basically the meaning of the High Priestess. You're looking at the spiritual side of the journey. This would be your intuition. Kind of like when we tell people to really trust and go with that gut feeling. We're talking about a High Priestess moment. So here we see that she has a crown, which is of the moon. And so in tarot, when we get the moon card, which is another card from the Major Arcana that we'll be getting to later on in our journey, things are not fully illuminated. The truth of things is not fully known. So it's a bit on the mysterious side. This is also known as the crown of Isis. So Isis is an Egyptian goddess. And so it's kind of a nod to the magical realm, that there are things beyond our understanding that we don't have rationalization for, but we very much pick up on them. And many times the things we have our faith in, our religions and so forth, are based in just having faith, if that makes sense. And then, so as far as the pillars go, they are a nod to a temple. It was the very first temple that was constructed in Jerusalem, which is in Israel, which it stood for a couple hundred years before it was destroyed. So these 2 pillars were either made of brass or copper. and they were symbolic of the contrast between the sun and the moon. So when you think of the sun, it's something brightly illuminated. So that would be a truth that's discovered or known. And then the moon, touching back on what I was just telling you guys about the moon, it's more of the unknown, not fully seeing the path that's illuminated, that there is a knowledge that is just beyond our reach. And so the B stands for Boaz, B-O-A-Z, which means strength, and J, which means Jachin or Jachin, which is the will to establish. So in order to pass, like she's basically guarding this knowledge, this spiritual insight. It just goes to show that somebody has to have the strength and the will to seek this knowledge. It's not something to be lightly treaded upon. One must be willing to do the legwork in order to obtain this knowledge that she is very much guarding. This cross that she's wearing is known as a solar cross, which is seen as a connection to the earth. So it is associated, say, with the power of God. The solar cross is seen as a connection to, say, the archangels and the saints from the Christian faith. It could also be seen as Odin's cross. So we have 4 seasons. So this cross is like a circle with an even cross going through it, symbolic of the 4 seasons. Again, Odin's cross. With this, we're looking at a light and dark pillar. So there's a knowledge of light and darkness. And so another interesting point on this temple that I mentioned, that was Solomon's temple based out of Jerusalem and Israel. It was reportedly constructed on top of the site where God made Adam. So it held a pretty big cultural significance from a Christian viewpoint. So you're looking at the knowledge of light and dark. So when I think of this card, it's very much thinking of, say, like the Garden of Eden. You know, when you've got, say, Adam and Eve, they're living in this beautiful garden, not aware of any knowledge of evil, when along one day comes a serpent, and he's looking at Eve saying, hey, you even though you live this great life in this garden, you know your creator and you walk with God. He tempted her in this, the story of our creation, saying, if you take a bite out of this fruit, you will know what God has purposely withheld from you. And you want to know. And he said it in such a way that it did tempt Eve to take the bite from the fruit. And as we all know, things changed in the story from that viewpoint going forward. They no longer walked in the garden alongside their creator. They were ashamed of the way that they looked at each other, hiding their nakedness, when before they didn't know anything to be ashamed of. So it's showing that somebody has to have the strength and the knowledge to know about the two. And there's this dichotomy. So when you think of a yin and yang, daytime, nighttime, masculine and feminine. Even if you think Star Wars, because you guys know I'm a Star Wars fan, the light side and the dark side. The balance that generally has to exist in life in general. So that's what that's symbolizing. And when I look at the pomegranates, I think of the Greek myth where you've got, Demeter and her daughter Persephone, and the underlord Hades he saw Persephone and fell in love with her, and he kidnapped her and took her into the underworld. And, her mother Demeter missed her terribly, and she wanted her daughter back. However, he ended up tricking Persephone with the pomegranate to where she had to stay there at least half the year. So the way the Greek tale goes is, when the weather is warm, and things turn green and lush, then she goes home to her mom. But then as the winter comes in and, Persephone has to go back down to the underworld with Hades. So that fruit, if you stop to think about it, is very much similar to the fruit that's mentioned in the story of Adam and Eve and the garden of, the evil, which is what that became. Paradise became something very evil. So that is one way of looking at it here. And it's basically telling us to trust our intuition more so than rationality and intellect. To go beyond that and look inside of ourselves here. And then when I see this crescent moon, and I don't know if you guys can see what I can see. So with the way that it works, when you see a symbol of a moon, and then on one side you've got one crescent, and then on the other you've got another crescent, it basically is in reference to the maiden mother crone, which shows the maturation of, say, the feminine. Very much like the fool, the maiden is very inexperienced, very wide-eyed and enthusiastic about life. Through her life experiences becomes a mother, okay, which is the full moon. And she's taking care of others and so forth. And then as time goes on, she becomes the crone with the crone knowledge, which is the triple moon. So in this picture, the high priestess is that latter aspect. She is very much, she's got her feet positioned upon that crone phase of the moon. So this is a woman who's done her legwork and has obtained this insight through life experiences. And she's holding a document known as the Torah, which is somewhat hidden from us. Again, it's doctrine, but we may not be fully ready for it. She's trying to get us to maybe even necessarily not focus on the document she's holding, but on something deeper, on a deeper scale of things. And with the white and blue coloration, it just brings a sense of calm. She is not necessarily the most friendly looking person in this card, but it just shows just potential, if that makes sense. So I thought that was really neat. And I had to do some research as to what all the different symbols mean. And that's what I would encourage you to look at as you're learning the cards. To look at, well, this is what I'm seeing in this card. What does it mean? It's really interesting how different mythologies woven together, and it all ties into a deeper meaning with these cards. That's why I love tarot. I find it so complex. It's such a beautiful thing. So like I've been doing, I'm going to hold up other cards so that you can think about what you just saw and compare it to some other cards here. So here's another high priestess. And so she is wearing what appears to be a crescent moon, okay? And that is over her head. And she's holding a yin and yang, okay? So again, there's that dichotomy. And at her waist, there are keys. Okay, so this, when you think of keys, you think of the potential of being able to unlock a door, which behind her, there is a door of sorts that could be interpreted to be a portal, which she holds the keys to. However, she's very much taking up most of this picture, and even without the pillars being present, she very much has that direct, focused gaze, very much cusping this dichotomy, wearing the keys about her waist the way she is. Her garments seem to be moving. And in the background, it's a very much a black starry night with even the ground behind her is black. So this is very much the unknown of not really knowing what lays past this lady, what goes beyond her, and just the sheer potential of that knowledge. Again, very much protected and unknown. Again, reminding us to look on our inside and to value our gut feelings and intuition. Here is a High Priestess card, which reflects a crow. And when I look at this, it looks like she is wearing a veil. So it's like this bird just got married. And she is seated upon this little crescent moon, and it's got a pentacle in it, okay? And then, so below this, there's the chalice, which is the cup, and a wand. And then to her, in this picture, it'd be to her left, there's a sword piercing the pomegranate. And yeah, and then, so with this, it's like, there's this knowledge that yes, the suits of the tarot are represented. However, I think that veil, instead of it looking upon it like a marital type thing, it's like a veil, kind of like they talked about in the Bible, in the New Testament, when they were talking about the curtain, how in the temple the Pharisees had prevented other people from having access to the knowledge of God because it was kept behind a curtain, and only certain people were allowed access to this knowledge, which, as someone would go forward into the New Testament, Jesus Christ, by dying for people's sins, removed essentially that curtain to where all people had access to the Word of God. And I'm sharing the mythos of different mythologies. So I hope I'm not coming off as preachy. If I am, that's not my intention. But this veil can be seen very much that same way. It's a veil that is hiding a truth that is not easy to see. And very much this crow is guarding access. Not just anybody's going to have access to this truth. And with the pomegranates, I like how it's in the background again. It's kind of like a little menacing. Like, are you sure you want to know? Like, kind of like before a truth is made known to you. Are you sure you want to know the truth? Like, are you ready for the truth? Can you handle it? Like, right now I'm hearing like Jack Nicholson's voice in my head from that one movie where it's like him and Tom Cruise are lawyers, and he's like on trial, and he's like, you can't handle the truth, when Tom Cruise was grilling him. That's his voice is in my head right now. So the last card, which I've been ending this series so far with a card as to, it's not based in Rider-Waite. And it's like, okay, what connections can we make? So here is a High Priestess card. And it shows, it's really really nice. It's almost like that Cleopatra movie with Elizabeth Taylor. It's got those Grecian themes where she's got that headband going on. She's not making direct contact like the other cards are. So she is gazing off toward the left, and she is holding this little sparrow. I'm not sure if it's injured or whatnot. It just does not look to be much of a natural position. But it's almost like maybe she's listening to him, gaining insight from his perspective, because he's facing toward her. And then around her, there is like this ribbon that says, maybe kindly. You can't read everything that's on it. Another one says, but I am obliged to. And another one says, what I will at all. So we're not even sure what this completely says. There are stars hanging around her head. This could represent the knowledge itself, like the unobtainable. Really, when you think of a star, it's nothing that we can ever hold necessarily. We see it. We want to know more about it. But do we really have the vehicle to get there? And even if we could hold a star, what would be the effect or the impact with cause and effect? And then as far as her dress, very conservative, buttoned up type of garment. With like a grayish blue background. So like if you were to get this, It's not there is some insight to be derived from it, but it is not for, say, a deck that's based with Rider-Waite-Smith, which is this. Okay, this is our classic High Priestess from Rider-Waite-Smith. And these two cards are very much on par with the classic. Okay, especially these two right here. Now, even this one has a lot of elements. But do you see the difference, though, as far as what these have in common compared to having a deck, which I love this deck, by the way. I hope I am not throwing the Hush Tarot under a bus. I bought the deck after getting a reading from another tarot reader who used this deck, and I saw the back of it. I have a thing for skulls, like I had previously mentioned. And this beautiful artwork, which he told me was from a gentleman who made all these watercolor paintings. And then what they did is they took this artist art and put it into a tarot deck. So I love this deck. But however, it's not for beginners. So I would not recommend it to a beginner. But again, beautiful imagery. So I just landed a lot of knowledge on you as far as all the various symbols and so forth and insights into this card. Feel free in the comments if you have any additional insights into the High Priestess you would like to share with our group. You're more than welcome to do so. And I will see you same time tomorrow as we continue our Fool's Journey. I'll post in our group to make that known. And I think that's the gist of it. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.